Welcome, friends, to the set review for Clockwork City. This is going to be a bit of a balancing act for me as I go through this, because first of all, I have opinions on these cards. I have some stuff I want to talk about here. I'm very interested in some of the new cards, so I am going to have to give serious opinions, but I also have to make this stupid because it's incredibly self-indulgent to do a set review, so I have to make it dumb in some way. There's a very easy solution for me to do this. It allows me to kind of balance these two things very easily, and that solution's name is Michelob Ultra. So a couple things as we're going through this. Number one, if I don't have a lot to say on a card or I don't think it's that good, I'm not going to harp on it for like 25 years or anything like that. I'm just going to move forward. If you're curious as to what my actual opinion on the card is, either like above me or somewhere on the video, post-production Ian is going to be putting just my actual rankings. I ranked every single card 1 to 58, put them in appropriate tiers. I'll put the tiers up on the screen right now, or post-production Ian will. And so you can follow those along if I don't really talk about a card that much. That's what I actually think about it. Number two, the way I'm rating this is competitive viability. So this is if you wanted to ladder and if you wanted to gain ranks, you wanted to give yourself the best chance to win. That's what the card is going to be ranked on. So even though I'm a bit of a memer, I'm going to be pretty serious about this. There's a lot of stuff that has meme value here that I don't think is going to be a good card, and I'm not going to rate it as a good card. So keep that in mind. I'm also going to be wrong about everything, so don't get mad if we disagree. I'm probably the one who's wrong. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So yeah, with that out of the way, crack 'em. All right, Fire Pod Spider. So it's a really interesting effect, and it seems okay, right? It seems like it's not that bad. The thing is, one drops are so fucking hard to put in your deck. It's not a summon. It's a last gasp. It's a problem. I don't know. I feel like it's just too slow. You can't. It's too slow to actually trigger, so you don't get immediate impact out of it. And that means if you draw this later and just plop it on a board, it's not going to have any impact. Imagine drawing this, like, on turn 8. Imagine drawing this. You're not happy. I don't think it's that good. Railway Prospector is solid, actually. I don't think it's going to be amazing or anything, because I think this is best with buffs, and stuff that's best with buffs just dies to hard removal. So I think that's going to be an issue as you move forward. It's a really powerful effect. Ignore the treasure hunt stuff. Treasure hunt's not going to trigger. Just the fact that after tech to give it cover, you give this thing 1 Steel Scimitar. That's only 2 mana of investment, although it is 2 cards, and that's a ton of damage moving forward. So I don't know if he cracks aggro lists. I think it fits in aggro lists, but I don't know if it's going to be good enough. Aggro lists are already super tight, so maybe. It's a solid effect, solid aggressive card. We'll see. I don't think it's that good. 2 mana, 3/2. The effect isn't that good, and it's not that easy to trigger. You play this in an aggressive deck, but you don't want to play Treasure Map in an aggressive deck. That's kind of a problem. Maybe if you stack your deck with a lot of items, but decks that stack with a lot of items are usually pretty bad. It's a 2 mana, 3/2. I rated it higher than I probably should, just because, and you'll notice that's a theme. Every single card that has Treasure Hunt and only one thing, I'll rate higher than I probably should have, because I'm thinking in the back of my head, maybe there's something to do with tutoring it out, but I don't think so. Worst of the Fabricants by far. Worst of the Fabricants by far. It's not that good of an effect. Like Silence isn't good enough of an effect for it to be conditional. It's on a terrible body. Like it's understated and it's conditional and it's not that good of an effect. And you have to build your deck in a way to make it trigger more frequently. Maybe in Glimmer decks you would play this just for the sake of like having a Silence in a deck you don't really have a Silence in. But I don't know. I think this is a really, really bad card. I think it's the least effective legendary. There's a bit of a theme here. Red did not get a whole lot in this set except for the next card, so I don't know. It's not bad. It's stats. That's the big problem. It's really easy to trigger. The Treasure Hunt, the +6/+6 isn't going to trigger. The idea here is every single card in your deck is going to trigger this, so it's basically a 3 mana 4/4 for 6 for a turn. Problem is, it's just gonna die. Like the upside isn't worth it. 3 mana 4/4, like the 3 mana 4/4s exist in the game. I don't think the upside's worth it. I think it's a pretty big tempo loss, and you would play this in a deck where you can't really afford a tempo loss. And it's just stats. It's just gonna die. This card, I love this card. This is I was very close to calling this the best card in the set. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think this is 2 really good effects on top of a good and solid stats for an item. So losing cover, if you've ever played Underworld Vigilante in a deck, you know how powerful that effect is. A lot of times you use that card even though it's aggro. You use it for removal. And then moving an enemy creature is an effect that I think is just, in theory, it's incredibly powerful, because there's no way to play around it. If you use this in the correct way, there's no way to play around Grappling Hook. So you can set up your turns in advance. It seems fantastic. This seems like an insane card that's going to open up a lot of new things. I don't know exactly. You put this in Rage Archer, I think. You put this in Mid Archer. I don't know. You put this in Rage Warrior. There has to be other decks that this fits in, because the effect is so powerful. Even the stats, +3, +2, it's the same number of stats as Heavy Battle Axe. Yeah, Heavy Battle Axe is a terrible card, but I think this is fantastic. It does things we haven't seen before, and I really look forward to trying this one out. It's really bad. It's like Immolating Blast, but worse. Link thinks this card's playable. I think he's insane. It's just the stats are too low. Like the cost sucks, but let's not focus too much on that, because this is a very powerful effect. I would much rather see this as like a 10 mana card, but the stats were actually playable to the point where you could maybe double trade and stick on the board. It's never gonna happen as a 3/4. It's never gonna happen as a 3/4. Like, this is in the same color as Rage. This is a removal option in the same color as Rage. I just don't think it's ever gonna see play. I don't think it's that good. There's gonna be themes here. I think 1-drops are pretty much impossible to put in your deck. Like, imagine Crown Quartermaster at least has some sort of value as you move forward. This doesn't. This is a 1-mana 1/2 ward. Almost always it's not going to trigger the 2 actions to give it the +1, and it becomes a Windkeep Spellsword at that point. Because how do you put this in your deck? You put this in as a 3-of, you maybe get lucky and play it on turn 1, and then every time you draw it, you just cry internally. I don't think it's that good. Why is this an orc? I understand it's an orc in the game, but why is this an orc? It doesn't... It's not good. The 2 health is the thing. Like, it doesn't have charge or anything. Even if you have some sort of wombo combo that gives this guy just a completely insane amount of stats, he has to stick for a turn. He's got 2 health. If you don't play any draw, it's 3 turns before this guy becomes a 2-mana 3/2. No, this is just bad. This one I'm okay on. I think this is actually a pretty solid card. It really interests me in Control, specifically because wards are a thing. You play this on a Warcrafter or Daggerfall Mage, and then your aggro opponent either has Cast Out, Shield Breaker, or concedes. It can end games, I think, when played at the right time. It's not a permanent shackle. Arrest is worded differently. This is just like a regular shackle. It's 1 turn, so you can even maybe fit this into like mid-range decks. 2-mana 3/3, obviously fantastic stats. The downside, I don't know how much of a downside it is, because you do get guard. A lot of utility here. I like this card. I think it's going to see some play. I'm not exactly sure where. Maybe Control Mage, maybe Mid-range Mage, maybe Mid-range Sorcerer. I like it. So it's 3 mana draw 1. That's something to keep in mind, but I think the utility here is just off the charts. You play this in like Support Mage or something like that. Support Mage can use this. Just bring back the high impact supports. The item thing is not insignificant. I'm sure there's some use for items that we can figure out. It's the cost sucks. 3 mana draw 1, but 3 mana late game in a Control Mage, because this is a late game card. You play this as like a 2-of or something. I like it. I think this is gonna find a place somewhere. I think this is gonna make Support Mages a little bit more consistent. Along with Loneth, this card and Loneth are going to make them more consistent, so I like it. It might just end up being too slow. But I like it. So I think I differ pretty much with everybody on this one. I don't think it's good. I don't think you play this in Control Mage. I think Crushing Blow is significantly better in Control Mage because of the ability to finish by going face. Obviously, for most of the game, you're going to be doing removal, but Crushing Blow later in the game becomes something that you hold back in your hand to potentially set up a 1 or 2 turn lethal. I think that's important. The one thing that I can agree is that this makes it you able to play Cunning Ally in Control Mage if you want to replace Crushing Blow with this. That's fine. You might end up running both of these, in both this and Crushing Blow. But I think this is just a worse version of Crushing Blow, and I think I'm in the minority on that, so... I don't know. I don't think you can afford to put a high roll card in Control Mage when you have consistency with Crushing Blow already. So random actions in this game tend to suck. It's important to remember. 3 mana, 2/4 guard. Camelorn Sentinel never sees it sees play, but it shouldn't. It's a terrible card, and that has prophecy. This has a conditional effect that isn't that good. The one thing it has going for it is it's a perfect spot in the curve. Like in blue decks, I already play Lurking Crocodile in Prophecy Battle Mage. I already play Ravenous Crocodile and Merrick Battle Mage. It's at a good spot in the curve. I just don't think it's a good effect. It might end up seeing play just because of the fact that it's a 3-mana card. The neutral 2-drops are all right. So I don't know. I don't think it's that good though. It's not bad. It's not bad, right? Not insane or anything. It's not going to change the Scout or Control Mage matchup, but you can pretty easily slot this into Control Mage as a 1-of, play it with Lonith. Bring it out against Scouts if you need it. It does hurt Scouts. Like, Scouts are going to have to change their lists. They'll still win, but they're going to have to change their lists because so many of them rely on the Giant Bat shenanigans at this point. This isn't about Parthenax loops. This is about Giant Bat. Giant Bat is the problem, and this is a little bit of a solution. It's not a great solution, though. You might play this in mid-range just because blue 5-drops are hot garbage. You know, you need ally percentage, of course, so maybe you squeeze that in there over, like, something in purple, but it's a solid card. I think it's really easy to just put, like, 2 of these in your deck. There's not a lot of downside. So this is, I think, the highest card I rated without actually knowing where it was going to go. Your first thought's Control Mage. And I think maybe, but I don't know if Control Mage can afford to play a 9-mana 6/6. Even if it draws, because you're capping out at 12 mana, you're not getting a chance to really do anything else on that turn. But the effect is just so absurdly powerful. This is the type of card you look at and like, I have no idea what this is gonna do, but this is gonna make something crazy possible. And even if it's just like a little bit of utility in Control Mage or Ramp Sorcerer, even in mid range, you could put this to try and tutor your Oncano, tutor your Burst at the end. It's gonna see play. I don't know exactly where, but it's really, really good effect. Like, I don't know if there's a better effect you could do draw related in the game, so it'll see play somewhere. Why? Why? I probably underrated this one a little bit. I think just because the treasure hunt, like treasure map, is in the game. If you need a specific support, or even just consistency in Control Mage, because the body's not that bad to drop on 3, I think you can play this card. I think it's solid. Definitely could see this coming in as a support mage. Definitely could see this making some combo decks like Ring of Nimir, High Hrothgar a little bit better. I don't know if those decks will be meta is the thing. Support mage is the only one that I think is actually going to end up being a player in the competitive sense, and I don't know if this card makes the list in support mage, but it's got potential, and you know, tutor effects are always going to find place somewhere, even if they're not in amazing decks or anything. So full disclosure, this is a re-recording. I recorded this once and the audio was shit, so I had to re-record it. I'm switching 2 cards. I'm switching this and Hulking Fabricant. This was number 4. I'm moving it down to number 6. So the thing is, the reason I think this card is good is not because the effect is amazing or anything. You guys have played Call of Valor, you know what 3/3s are like. They're not overwhelming or anything like that. The thing is, this is the easiest one to trigger by far. You don't really have to do anything to your deck. You just put this in a token deck. Like, it's really easy to just put this in a token deck. Replace one of your 2-drops with Lurking Crocodile and Markman. I think those 6 is enough to get reasonable triggers off this. Obviously not in Token Crusader, which is the reason I moved this down, is kind of realizing this is never going to see play in Token Crusader, but I think it'll see play in other token decks. I think potentially some mid-range decks, mid-range Spell Sword, if they try to fit in the Fabricant, will probably just play this as well. Got a lot of potential. I think any deck that runs Divine Fervor, if they can fit in enough neutral cards at the bottom, is going to want to run this. Just the ease of triggering with Markman. That's why I'm rating it this high. Not because I think the effect is amazing, because I think this is going to be really easy to get to trigger. I rated this one higher than I should have. It shouldn't. I mean, it's Dark Harvester level of heal. That's the thing. It's Dark Harvester level of heal. It's a lot of heal, and the stats aren't even that bad. It's a little bit understated for the cost, but it's a 4-drop in willpower. Cloud Rest Illusionist. Hive Defender. The new Fabricant. Where do you put this? Where does it go? What deck would ever choose this over those? I don't know, man. So maybe Shenanigans? Maybe Shenanigans? I don't actually know. I don't think so. I think it's too much. The cost is too much. Shadow Lane is a thing in this game, so even if you steal something, you might not be able to even trade it into anything on your enemy's side. It's very, very situational. It's very, very situational. Obviously, in the right situation, this is a 5 mana, you remove 2 things. I don't think that's frequently going to come up. Solid against Rage Archer, though, right? They run a lot of lethals. I don't know. I don't think it's playable. Obviously, pretty great. I don't think I have to tell you guys that. The stats are fantastic. This is another one where you can just ignore the big chunk of text. It's 5 mana, 5/6 guard. The other thing doesn't really matter. I think it's a good card. I think it's going to see play. Control mages are going to hate this card. Control mages are also probably going to play this card. The worry is the stat pile. We tend to overrate stat piles when we're doing this kind of stuff. So don't be surprised if this ends up just not seeing any play at all. But I think it's going to see play. I think the guard pushes it over the edge. I think this is a really tough card to deal with if you drop it on curve. But yeah, it is just a stat pile, maybe. Fuck this card. I don't even know if it's good. I hate this effect. I want to kill my opponent, and then I want my opponent to be dead. I don't want to kill my opponent and then have to kill him again. I hate this effect. It's probably pretty good, though. So this excites me. This is one of my favorite cards. One of the most interesting cards in the set to me because of what it does to an archetype. Yellow sucks at burst. At the end of the curve, ask a spell sword how they finish off a game, and then they'll just frown at you. This is a mid-range finisher. And then I'm excited to see where I can slot this in or if it's good enough. I played Dwarven Dynamo a lot, and that was, I think, a really underrated card because of what surprise buffs can do. They can give you the ability to trade in a favorable way that your opponent wasn't expecting. They can give you lane control. I think this is a pretty fantastic card. It's burst. It's utility. I think it's going to see a ton of play, and I really look forward to trying to make some mid-range yellow decks work using this as a little bit of a finisher. So I love this card. So this is one of the ones I differ with the most out of anybody else. I think it's good. I think it's a sticky minion, and the reason I like it is because 0 is also a number in this situation, which means even if you don't get any pilfers, it's still going to summon a Dwarven Spider. 2 mana 1/2, summon a 0/3 guard when you die. That's not the worst thing in the world. That's not bad. And then it has snowball potential. And your opponent has to give up tempo to deal with it, or you get value. I think this is perfect in Token Monk. I am going to play this in Token Monk. It allows you to play Fabricants in Token Monk. I think it's a good card, and I think it's going to see play. So I don't think this is a meme card by any means. I think this has a lot of potential. All right. So follow me here. Imagine a scenario. You play this. And then you play a treasure map. And you draw a lethal creature. So you have a 5 mana, 4/4 lethal. Absolutely fantastic card in 2 very specific decks. Goblins is going to play this instantly. Goblins plays 3 of these cards. It's got the Goblin tag, obviously. Has synergy with the sad Gobbos that you pull. It's good. It's at a spot where like they were playing maybe Murkwater Butcher before. This is just better than Murkwater Butcher. It's going to be in Gobbos. Market is the other one that uses this. I think this is fantastic in Market. I've seen some people say maybe not. I think it's absurd in Market. Close calls count for draws. Raiding parties count for draws. Skull counts for draws. Smuggler's Hall counts for draws. There's so many ways to trigger this. It's at a good stat line for Market because I don't really care about board control. I just care about damage. So just a 3/2 that your opponent has to deal with, that's fine. Or you push 4 damage with it, that's fine. It's gonna be absurdly easy to trigger this effect on the turn that you play it because it's a low mana cost. It's a really good card. This is definitely, this is not just gonna fit in those decks. This is going to be a buff to those decks. And waffle on this one. I waffle on this one quite a bit. I don't know. See, it's a powerful effect, right? It's a really powerful effect. Steal and cover is a really good thing, but there's two things. Number one, Hive Defender is a card in this game. You play this and they play Hive Defender, and then you just sob. Number two, if they don't have anything to steal cover from, I mean, you can steal cover from your own creature, but you don't really want to do that. If they don't have anything to steal cover from, this is just a 4-mana 5/3 that exists in the game, and it's terrible. It's a really powerful effect. I'm going to rate it higher than I should. I think it probably ends up seeing 0 play. It's tough to rate powerful effects low, though. I don't think it's that good. 4-mana 3/3 drain with no prophecy. It's just the worst version of Werebat. The actual trigger. Green is one of the easiest ones to get it off in because it has stuff like Elder Gleam Matrix. So you can put in Animal Synergy, shit like that. Maybe Shackle Assassin. Play like Dwarven Sphere into this. I don't think it's going to be that good, though. This is Griffin Gasp's card of the set. Obviously incredibly busted. One of the most absurd cards they've ever printed. I don't know why they did this. It's a Scorpion. Obviously, Scorpions are terrifying. I don't see a situation where my opponent plays this and I don't just fear concede because I'm afraid of Scorpions. So it's tough. It hurts me that they printed this. Actual card of the set, I think. This is just fantastic. You put this in green decks. I don't even know if, first of all, Rage Archer instantly. Any mid-range Archer instantly. You run Archer's Gambit. If you want 3 Archer's Gambits, you run Steel Storms. Done. And then moving into other decks, I think Ramscale can afford to play this. I think mid-range Assassin can afford to play this. It's just an absurdly powerful effect. It's a snowball machine. And some people have made the comparison to Gortwog. Like, oh, you don't play Gortwog. That's because Gortwog's only in Warrior. Warrior has like one archetype. And Gortwog doesn't really fit into it. It has a couple other archetypes that aren't very good, and you put Gortwog in those. This is a single class card, which means you can put it in whatever deck you want. Yeah, like maybe there's a couple decks or a couple classes that won't use this, but Archer, this is an amazing card in Archer. This is an absurd card in Archer. I think it's going to be one of the best cards in the set, if not the best card. And Rage Archer, man. Rage Archer got buffed. I don't think it's that good. I mean, it's so hard to put a 1-drop in your deck, man. And, like, if you want to run this as an aggressive list, you're already running Raider. Even in a Werewolf deck, Werewolf decks aren't really a thing. I don't think it's good enough. Like, at some point, a 1-drop's going to surprise us and end up being good enough that the fact that it's a 1-drop won't matter. I don't think it's this one. 1-mana 2/4 is amazing. 1-mana 1/3 isn't actually that bad for trading purposes. But I just don't think you can put a 1-drop in your deck. Maybe, but I really don't think so. So it's not bad. I think it's overrated quite a bit. The problem is purple 2-drops tend to suck. So this is going to see play. I don't know if it's going to make decks appreciably better or worse. But it's going to see play. Rage Warrior plays this, I think. Because their 2-drops are terrible. Any sort of control warrior plays this. I mean, if you play Kavash Soldier is terrible. Even just a better version of Kavash Soldier doesn't really mean that much, right? Because Kavash Soldier is terrible. I don't know. It'll probably see play. It's just worse finish off. And finish off is already like doesn't see play. I don't know. It's really cool art. I might try to make it work just for the art. It's not that good. I need another beer. Nope. So I think it's overrated a little bit. It's still one of the best cards in the set because I don't think the set's that good. But I don't know. It's like an Ungolem level card. An Ungolem is like medium level usefulness. A lot of times it won't have any impact on your game at all. First of all, you need to draw this in an early turn. Second of all, you need to draw this and draw the cards. It's shuffled into your deck early enough for them to be relevant. I don't know. It'll get played. I don't think it's going to make decks any better or worse, but it'll get played. It'll have its moments. I mean, it's solid. It's a high power level card. You take a little bit of a tempo loss playing a 3/3, but I don't know. Especially with prophecies. But then again, purple has terrible prophecies. You have to pair this with something. I really don't know. I think it's good. I think it's good. I don't think it's gonna be that great though. I don't think it's gonna be overwhelming or meta changing. So I don't think. I mean, first of all, East Empire Crafter, really high power level card. I don't think I have to tell you guys that. It's a very high power level card. We saw that in like the Skyrim Gauntlet stuff. Problem is, it's also a really high power level card that doesn't see a lot of competitive play because it's difficult to build your deck around it. This is just a worse version of East Empire Crafter. Like, it's a temporary version of East Empire Crafter that functions on like, what cards are you playing that are less than 5 health, and why are you playing them? Like maybe Barrow Stalker we just saw, but meh. I think the effect comes so infrequent that it's really not worth it. Just play 3 East Empire Crafters instead. If you're playing 3 East Empire Crafters, you probably can't afford to play this. Alright, so here's the thing. I think it's a good card. It's a good effect, rather. I think it's a powerful card. So the ratings, again, are based on how you would play them competitive. Here's the thing. This is an anti-control card in purple. Why wouldn't you just play ramp? Like, this is for mirrors. This is basically just for mirrors. You play this in like Scout mirrors, or also you play this in like Ram. This isn't a Ram Scout card. You play this in Ram Scout, and then you take control decks that you would already beat, and then you beat them harder. It's you don't put a card in your deck to make a good matchup better. This is a good tournament card, but tournaments don't exist for the game. I think it's a really good effect. I think it's a solid card. I also don't think it's going to see any play. It's tough. I'm worried. I'm worried about this one. Here's the thing. If you can't figure out the deck to make Dwarven Dynamo work, then you can't figure out the deck to make this work. And if you can't figure out the deck to make this work, it's a pretty terrible card, right? I don't know. I waffle. I really do waffle on this one. I think it ends up working. I think you can end up making this deck work. I think you can find like the minimum number of neutral creatures to make this thing trigger, and then get a 5-mana 8/8 pretty consistently. If you don't, it's a 5-mana 5/5. But you do have to put neutral creatures in your deck. That might just torch the early game enough to the point where this never sees play. It's possible. I'm just gonna say it's good though. I think the deck will work. Alright, so for those not familiar with how this works, what it is you spend this mana, you pick one creature where the cost, the health, and the defense are all the same. So, sorry, the health and the attack are all the same. So it's like 1 mana 1, 1, 2 mana 2, 2. You get 3 random options 1 through 12. And then you get a really crappy effect, either one keyword or like a heal for 2, give a minion +1/+1. So you get like an understated creature with a crappy effect that you have to pay an extra mana for. Solid and mono neutral. I think this is just a terrible card. I mean, think of like the best case scenario where you get a bunch of these. They're still just 1/1s, unless you're playing Divine Fervor, in which case just play better 1-drops. If you're playing tokens, play better 1-drops than this. It's a 1-mana 1/1. You can't, even if it's summing other 1-mana 1/1s, you can't get away with that. You really just can't. I think this card is shit. We're gonna be doing this for all the effect totems. Nope. Really exciting card. You potentially buff the dragon decks. Potentially buff the goblin decks. Really any tribal decks. Like stuff that's on the fringe of the meta. I worry, but I think they'll make some of this stuff playable. I think this makes goblin lists, which is like somewhere around a tier 2 or tier 3 deck. I think this could potentially make animal lists a little bit more efficient, because there's a lot of neutral synergy you could potentially fit in with there as well. So I think this is an exciting card. 2 mana 2/3, obviously you find stat line. All creature types. It's basically just a buff to tribal decks. Makes tribal decks a little bit more consistent. Dragons are the one to watch out for, because I think Blades Lookout is one of the most powerful cards in the game that doesn't currently have a deck. So watch for it. I'm excited. I'm excited about this card. It's a really cool design. Nope. So my first thought is this card is terrible. My second thought is East Empire Crafter. Still probably not good enough. I just want to hug it. It's a 3 mana 2/3. Really interesting card. Potential tutor effect, right? Every single treasure hunt creature that only has one thing listed, this is a potential tutor effect for a specific thing you want in your deck. Slightly undercosted Tome of Alteration, with one less stat. Tome of Alteration is borderline playable. This will find a place, I think. I don't know. The treasure hunt cards are all terrible. That's the problem. This is going to be played in something like a combo deck, maybe some sort of control deck. But then again, can you afford a 3-mana 1/1 as control even if it's drawing you a card? Probably not. Interesting. I think this finds a place somewhere. I'm rating tutor effects higher than I should because I think there's something I'm not thinking about. But I think it'll find place somewhere. So this is the one card I think I differ with most on everybody. I think this is a solid card. I think this is a slightly less shitty shout than everything besides Drain Vitality or Soul Tear. And I think that's important because green decks look at Scout, like Archer, Monk, Assassin, look at Scout, and they're like, God damn it, I really wish I could run the shout package because Drain Vitality, early Drain Vitality just ends games. Game's over. You play them out, but the game's over as soon as that first level 3 Drain Vitality hits. But they can't convince themselves to run the shout package when they're running it with like Unrelenting Force, Fire Breath, and Call of Valor. This is defensive. It's not great. It's overcosted Crushing Blow, but potentially heals you. Defensive removal. It's better, I think, than Fire Breath. Fire Breath is overcosted Firebolt. This is overcosted Crushing Blow that potentially heals you. I think this is going to see play. I think control green decks are going to use this, and I think it's going to be a buff to those decks. Obviously, you want Drain Vitality, but you don't want to run just Drain Vitality and end up having the Ward Walls and Greybeard Mentors be dead cards 10 turns into the game. It's a terrible feeling. So I think this card sees play. I think it's a solid card. I don't think it's a high power level card, but I think it fits perfectly into some decks to the point where it's going to see play. It's easier to trigger than it looks. It's about the best thing I can say about it. It's bad. God damn it. No. So, I think most overrated card in the set. Here's the thing. The effects are reversed from what you want them to be. It's you want the Drain in the Shadow lane so you can push it through. You want the Guard in the left lane because you're going to be fighting for field on turn 5 for most games. It's just clunky. It's really, really clunky. A lot of times you're not going to be able to play this in the way you want to. Even if you do, it's just appropriate stats if you don't get a chance to utilize those effects. So if you're just playing it to fight for Shadow Lane, the Guard doesn't really help. I mean, the Guard is useful. Protects face, but you don't always need it if trading is happening. Drain. You don't want Drain when you're fighting for field lane on turn 5. It's a solid power level card. It's a really high power level card for a neutral, but I just think it's so clunky it's not going to end up seeing play. I think some decks are going to try this and find that there's other options that are just better. Alright. We're going to talk about this one. Why are the Factotums bad? Here's the thing. Once again, I'm going to go back to how I'm rating these cards. We're talking about competitive decks. You take this, you're in Legend, you're trying to hit top 32, last day of the season. What are you putting in your deck? Factotums are terrible because they're so aggressively understated that even if you play them on curve, you're still ending up with stuff that's lower if you just put actual cards in your deck. And yeah, you get the late game shit, but the late game doesn't matter unless you draw one unique legendary that is in your deck. This is the only thing that makes it viable. Obviously, very high power level card. You have this on 6 with Factotums, you're probably going to win the game. But the fact is, if you don't have this on 6, then you have 12 terrible cards in your deck that you're just going to keep drawing, and you're going to play them and make them slightly less terrible, but you're going to be doing that instead of playing actual cards. You replace actual cards with decks that someday might be actual cards if you draw a 6 Magicka unique legendary. I don't think this deck is going to work. I don't even think this deck is going to come close to working. I think people are going to win a couple games with the Sample Titan and then ignore the fact that their overall win rate with the deck is somewhere around like 35 or 40. I don't even think it's better than standard Dwemer. With that said, I hate Factotums. This is another one, again, maybe some weird tutor effect I'm not thinking about, which is why I rated it higher than I probably should. It's so slow. It's probably worse than Stronghold Incubator, and Stronghold Incubator is a terrible card. It's different random 1-cost creatures, right? Because you can't even do 3 assassins just because of the wording of the card. I don't like it. I think it's just bad. So this is the best unplayable card, right? This is the best unplayable card? Because obviously any deck... The deck you would want this in is Rage. And if you're running Rage, just run Vigilant Giant. But it's still a pretty powerful card. It's gonna kick ass in Arena. I don't know, there's nothing wrong with this. It's a budget option, man. Somebody wants to play Rage Archer, they don't want to craft Vigilant Giants. It's a lot easier to just get the story. Get a lot of other cards with it. You can put this in for Vigilant Giant. I like it. Nothing wrong with this card. Weirdly enough, I think it might see play. I think Control Mage might end up running this card. I think it's insanely greedy, but everybody tries to play super greedy anyway. Ram Scout could run this card. Obviously, it gets destroyed by aggro if you draw this too early, but as a unique, so that undoes it a little bit. If it's a control-dominated meta, this is going to see play, just for the sake of greed, but, I mean, it's not super high power level. A lot of the times, it's 8 mana 4/4 draw card, the card is going to be better than usual. And you can't control the effect in any way, so you can't even use it to try to snipe something off your opponent's minions. You can high roll. It's RNG as shit, which is why it's underpowered. I still think it might be good enough to see play in some cases, in some metas. I don't think it's that good of a card, though. Maybe? This Fierce F guard? That's your entire turn. It's your entire turn. I think it's just bad. Alright, guys. So if you're counting at home, top 5 cards, we have number 5, Lonith. You can't actually see my hand. Number 5, Lonith. Number 4, Hulking Fabricant. Number 3, Murkwater Guide. Number 2, Grappling Hook. And number 1, Sails Through Storm. Going down to the bottom 5, 5th worst. Hands off screen again. 5th worst, Clockwork Scorpion. 4th worst, Basilisk. 3rd worst, Starsung Bard. 2nd worst, Reconstruction Engine. And worst, all of the factotums combined. Thanks for joining me, guys. I look forward to being wrong about pretty much everything in this. I look forward to being reminded about how wrong I was throughout the course of the next couple of months. Enjoy the set, guys.